supply. Right, value of supply is done. Okay, section 15. Correct? Okay, time of supply section. $12, $13, and 14. Okay, right. In that mainly we'll discuss 12 and 13. Right. Okay. See, time of supply. Actually, why we need these provisions? Why we need this time of supply provisions? So, time of supply provisions means it is the point of time when the liability to pay GST arises. GST arises. The point of time when the liability to pay GST arises. Okay. First of all, by charging section, GST liability will be created. By charging section, GST liability will be created on the dealer, on the registered person, on the taxable person. Okay. Later on, if the liability is created, first if the liability is created, that will be collected later. Once the levy is done means collection will be made later. Okay, so if the levy is made, that means the liability is created in the on 15th August means liability to pay GST is created on 15th August means in the next month by 20th September you have to pay GST. So liability to pay GST arises on 15th August. That means in the month of August, liability created. In the following month, by 20th you have to pay GST. So it is, see here the tax period is month. Generally monthly tax periods will be there. In some exceptional cases, quarterly tax periods may be there. Tax periods may be there. Okay, so once if the liability is created in a particular date means particular month. Okay, so in the next month you have to pay GST. Okay, see, time of supply determines when the GST liability arises. Time of supply determines when the GST liability arises. So how we will determine? See, on 15th August goods supplied. Okay, see, your concern you may take it as a public holiday. So 16th August goods supplied. Goods supplied means goods delivered. Okay, on 14th August bill raised. Okay, bill raised, later on goods delivered. Okay, on 20th September payment made. Okay, so these are three different dates. So bill raised on one date, goods delivered on one date, payment made in the next month. Okay, likewise the events with respect to a single supply has been scattered. Sometimes it will happen that GST invoice will be, that means tax invoice issued will be issued now, payment will be made now, goods will be delivered now. At pan shop it will happen like that. Okay, or at the shopping mall it will happen like that. But sometimes whenever it is a bigger business transaction, purchase order will be on one date. Okay, pricing of the bill will be on one date, goods will be delivered on one date, and sometimes goods will be delivered on installment basis, like it will be delivered in installments. Okay, sometimes there will be continuous supply of goods, sometimes there will be continuous supply of services also. Okay, and the payment will be made in installments, not bill wise. Payment will be made in installments. Sometimes payment will be made at once, but at a later point of time, after delivery of the goods, maybe 2 months later the delivery of the goods. Likewise, the events relating to a particular sale or a particular supply is being scattered over a particular period. It may be 6 months period, or it may be 1 month, or it may be 1 day, or it may be 2 days, like that. So over a period of time, it is getting scattered. So when you will collect GST, when the liability of the GST arises, is the question. Okay, so in order to fix a particular point of liability, we have the provisions of time of supply. Are you getting this? Why we are studying these provisions? Okay, now see here, we have an introduction here. Time of supply, which will explain you knowing when to pay GST. Time of supply means knowing when to pay GST. Okay, right. So imagine a seller sells two high-end projectors. Here how the transaction unfolds. Order placed on 5th April. Projectors dispatched on 9th April. Delivered at the classroom on 12th April. Invoice raised by the supplier on 14th April. Payment made on 20th April. Okay, so these likewise only single supply. The events has been scattered like this. Okay, so in those cases, now the obvious case question arises: out of all these steps, when should GST be paid? GST be paid means GST liability arises. Okay, first if you fix the liability date, then you will be knowing the date of payment of GST, due date for payment of GST. Okay, that will be fixed. If your liability arises in this month, see, actually, for the sake of example, we have taken these dates. But if these events are scattered over different months, then only it will be a problem. If all the events are there in this 1 month means, there in the single month means, then there will not be any problem. At one such date, if in any of the event GST arises, the liability arises. If the liability arises in a particular month means, in the next month you are going to make the payment. That will be the due date. Okay, right. So in order to fix the point in time when the liability arises, we had to have this time of supply provisions. So here, obviously, out of all the steps, we should when should GST be paid? That's where the time of supply comes in. GST is not payable at every step, but only at the specific trigger point called the time of supply. Okay, right. So it tells when your liability arises. It fixes the date from which due date, complaints, and interest are counted. Okay, next you might get goods or services now, but GST is payable based on certain events like invoice date, payment date, service performance date, receipt of goods, entry in the books. Entry in the books. Okay, next, for example, if the time of supply is 25th May, then GST must be paid by 20th June. If you are a monthly filer, if you are filing it monthly, if your tax period is a month, then in such cases, if your liability is in this month means by the next month 20th you have to make the payment. Okay, right. So there are different rules for different situations. So for goods, time of supply is decided under section 12. For services, it is defined under section 13. If tax rate changes, section 14 explains what to do. Okay, so this is the introduction of time of supply. So time of supply is the exact moment when the government says, now you owe me GST. You're understanding this? Just have a reading of this introduction. Just have a reading of this introduction. Simply time of supply is the point in time when the GST liability arises. Okay. right? So for goods, for services, when the tax rate changes, we have section 12, 13 and 14. Okay, so in this chapter we are going to study time of supply for goods, for services. For goods under forward charge mechanism, under reverse charge mechanism. For services under forward charge mechanism, under reverse charge mechanism. And other 3 different cases are also there in each of this. In goods also 3 different cases are there. Similarly, in services also 3 different cases are there. Okay, so in total 5 clauses will be there here. In goods 2 plus 3, 5 clauses will be there. Here in services 2 plus 3, 5 clauses will be there. Okay, but the 3 clauses are similar. In goods also, in services also, same provisions will be continued. Okay, just we need to replace with the time of supply of service, time of supply of goods, that's all. Okay, right. So in this chapter we are going to study time of supply of goods, time of supply of services. Why these provisions are necessary? Why these provisions are necessary? To determine the point of time when the GST liability arises. Okay, when the GST liability arises has to be fixed first. Okay, right. So now we will start with time of supply of goods and time of supply of services. Time of supply of goods and time of supply of services. So we know this goods definition, we know this service definition. Recipient definition we have seen. Recipient definition. Recipient is the person who is paying consideration. Who is paying consideration. Sometimes it is not always the consumer who will be or the recipient who will be paying consideration. Sometimes the third party also may be paying consideration. See, if the consideration is payable for supply of goods or services, person liable to pay consideration will be recipient. Consideration is payable. If no consideration is payable, to whom the goods are being delivered or made available, or to whom the goods or to whom possession or the use of the goods is given or made available. If no consideration is payable for supply of services, to whom the services are rendered, he will be called as a recipient. Who is the recipient? If consideration is involved, then the person who is paying the consideration will be the recipient. If the consideration is not involved, with respect to goods, to whom the goods are being delivered. Okay, with respect to services, to whom the goods services are being rendered. Okay, recipient includes agent of the recipient. Supplier includes agent of the supplier. Supplier includes agent of the supplier. Recipient includes agent of the recipient. Principal also includes agent. Right. Okay. Now we are going to the statutory provisions of section 12, where we are talking about supply of goods. Time of supply of goods. Where we are talking about time of supply of goods. So here, as per section 12, we need to fix the point of time. Point of time when the GST liability arises in case of supply of goods. In case of supply of goods. Right. So this will be linked with the invoice date. This will be linked with the invoice date. Invoice date means when you are issuing tax invoice. When you are issuing tax invoice. So why it is called tax invoice? GST is being collected on it. GST is being collected on it. Okay, so that's why it is a tax invoice. So it will be issued by the registered persons or a taxable person. It shall be issued by the taxable person. Right. See, if the invoice, see, when the GST payment is just linked with date of invoice, date of tax invoice. So in such cases, if let's say the provision is like that, so whenever you are issuing invoice, you have to pay GST. The time of supply is date of invoice. If you are saying like that, means I will not issue invoice. Or I may delay in issuing the invoice. By that way, I can defer the payment of GST. So that's why, it is linked to tax invoice, but there shall be a final date or a due date for issuing a tax invoice. Final date or a due date for issuing the tax invoice. Likewise, you have the due date for issuing tax invoice. Now the time of supply with respect to goods can be linked with the invoice, because there is a bar, there is a due date by which invoice shall be issued. So now if the time of supply is linked to the tax invoice, then it could make sense. So likewise, we have a provision under section 12 which is determining the time of supply with respect to goods, but it is linked to tax invoice due date. It is linked to tax invoice due date, tax invoice date and tax invoice due date. Okay, what the provision is telling, we will see. What the provision, just the bare act, what the bare act is telling, we will see. Right. See, with respect to section 12, time of supply of goods, subsection 1 is there. There it is telling that liability to pay tax on the goods, liability to pay tax on the goods shall arise at the time of supply. Shall arise at the time of supply, determined time of supply as determined in terms of the provisions of this section. So time of supply of the goods will be determined as per section 12 is given, is what given under section 10, sorry, under section 12 subsection 1. So as per section 12 subsection 1, what it is telling, time of supply of goods is there, no? That will be determined as per section 12. That is what it is telling. So you can say it is a dummy section, dummy subsection, right? So now section 12 subsection 2. Now this is the main section or the main subsection with respect to time of supply of goods, time of supply of goods. So here the provision is time of supply of goods shall be the earlier of the following dates. Time of supply of the goods shall be the earlier of the following dates. Okay, namely earlier of the following dates means whichever is earlier. So date of issue of invoice by the supplier, date of issue of the invoice by the supplier, or last date on which he is required under section 31 to issue the invoice. So simply date of invoice or last date of invoice with respect to supply, or date on which the supplier receives the payment with respect to the supply. Date on which the supplier receives the payment with respect to the supply. That means whenever he is receiving the payment. See, so in a way we can say that date of invoice or last date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. If these are three different dates, out of which is the earlier date, that will be the time of supply. If it is falling under May month, by June 20th you have to make the payment. Okay, right. See here, so we already made a discussion with respect to this. See, in this definition of the supply, in definition of supply section 7, correct? 7 subsection 1, clause A. Supply includes all forms of supply such as sale, transfer, barter, lease, license, rental, disposal. Okay, made or agreed to be made. Made or all forms of supply like sale or transfer, barter, exchange, lease, license, made or agreed to be made for consideration in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, made or agreed to be made is there. Made or agreed to be made is there. To be made for consideration. For consideration. See here, made for consideration means sale already materialized. Made for consideration. Agreed to be made for consideration means it is an advance received. Correct? So made for consideration means it is already sold. It is already done. Supply made. Okay. Agreed to be made for consideration means supply is yet to be made. Supply is yet to be made. For consideration means, that means advance been received. Advance received, but supply not made. Advance received, but supply not made. Right. Okay. Regarding this, we have already made a discussion that whenever it is a case of supply of goods, with respect to supply of goods, you have received an advance. With respect to supply of goods, you have received an advance. Okay, so that means you are going to supply in future. You are receiving the advance payment. Okay, so let's say supply worth 5 lakhs has to be made, 50,000 received as an advance. Okay, see, I I have received on 15th June 50,000 rupees as an advance for supply. Okay, I have made the supply on 15th July. Supply made on 15th July. I have given the invoice on 16th July. 16th July I have given the invoice. Next, August 2nd, I have received the payment, balance payment. How much? 4,50,000. This is what is happened with respect to a particular supply of 5 lakh rupees. This is what is happened. So now applying what we have read so far under section 12 subsection 2. We have started now. This, what is this? Section 12 subsection 2 clause A, clause B we have read. What is that? Date of issue of invoice by the supplier, or last date on which he is required under section 31. Last date we have not seen so far. What is the last date? We don't know with respect to a particular supply. Okay, forget about that. So date of issue of invoice we are knowing it. Okay, date on which the supplier receives the payment with respect to the supply. Date of payment we know. So now tell me what will be the time of supply. Now tell me what will be the time of supply. See, these are the dates. On 15th June, 50,000 advance we have received. Payment received. 15th July, actual supply made. 16th July, we have given the invoice. August 2nd, we have received the balance payment. So what will be the supply? What will be the time of supply? 16th July, yeah? How? Invoice date or payment date, whichever is earlier. Payment date is 4,50,000. But what about this 50,000 payment? This also we have received, no? This also we have received, no, 50,000. Okay. So if I am asking that there is no such advance, I have just received total 5 lakhs on 15th June. Okay. I have issued the invoice on 15th July. I have made the supply on 15th July. Supply and invoice on 15th July. 15th June I have received the amount. Now you tell me. 15th June. Okay. Date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay. Right. With respect to supply of goods. Whenever you are taking advance, you no need to consider that as a time of supply, even though that is an earlier date also. This is already given under section 12 subsection 2. Already given. What it is telling? Date of invoice or last date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier, it is telling. But it is irrelevant. But it shall not be taken into consideration. Which shall not be taken? The date of payment shall not be taken into consideration. But what has to be taken into consideration? Just the date of invoice and due date of invoice. Last date of invoice. These two has to be considered. Just date of invoice and last date of invoice. These two has to be taken into consideration only. Other than that, date of payment is there, no? Date of payment, that shall not be taken into consideration with respect to supply of goods. So time of supply of goods in case of forward charge mechanism will be date of invoice or last date of invoice. We don't know the last date of invoice. That is given under section 31. So 31 we have to study. As per section 31, what is the last date for issue of invoice shall be known in order to have the full knowledge of this section. But with respect to supply of goods, if in case you are receiving an advance, on that advance you no need to make the payment of GST. GST liability won't arise. With respect to supply of goods, I am not talking about supply of service. Right. So with respect to supply of goods, if the advance is received means, then time of supply will not be there. That means on advance no GST has to be paid. Okay, no GST has to be paid. Right. So goods definition is there, no? We have seen goods definition. In that, goods includes actionable claims. Goods definition includes actionable claims. Out of such actionable claims are there under schedule 3 para schedule 3 para 5 or 6 para 6 correct para 6 schedule 3 actionable claims. But out of such actionable claims there are some exception to actionable claims under schedule 3. What are those? Lottery, betting, gambling, online games, online bettings, etc. So those are excluded from the definition of actionable claims for the purpose of schedule 3 para B. That means these are actionable claims. That means these are goods. These are goods not covered under schedule 3. That means on this supply will be there, GST will be there. These are goods. Lottery, betting, gambling will be goods, will be considered as goods, and those will be, if those will be supplied, then GST will be attracted. GST will be attracted, right? So with respect to lottery, betting, gambling or online games, if you are receiving any advance, then for such payments, on such advance you have to pay GST. Here this provision will apply. Section 12 subsection 2 as it is will apply. What is that? Date of invoice or last date of invoice, date of payment, everything will apply, whichever is earlier. You are getting it? So exceptional cases only date of payment clause will be applied. Generally date of payment clause will not be applied with respect to supply of goods. What will be applied? Just what is the time of supply of goods under forward charge mechanism? What is that? Date of invoice or last date of invoice. That means there is no GST on advance. Time of supply of goods shall not be considered, need not be calculated, need not be seen with respect to advance payment in respect of supply of goods. So whenever it is a case of specified actionable claims, these are specified actionable claims, lottery, betting, gambling. With respect to specified actionable claims, if there is an advance received, then on such advance GST is payable. Time of supply will be date of payment or date of invoice or last date of invoice, whichever is earlier. You are getting this? Okay, so advance is received on goods means there is no GST. If the goods are specified actionable claims, on advance also GST will be there. So for time of supply, the entire provision will come. What is that? Date of invoice, last date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Generally, other than specified actionable claims, what is the time of supply of goods under forward charge mechanism? What is that? Date of invoice or due date of invoice or last date of invoice as per section 31. Okay, under forward charge mechanism. You are getting it? So that means if you are receiving advance with respect to some supply of goods, on such advance there will not be any GST. Under forward charge mechanism, if you are collecting any advance, on such advance there will not be any GST. Okay, there will not be any GST, right? So now that means there is an undeniable necessity to know the last date of invoice, correct? Because the time of supply of goods is date of invoice or last date of invoice. We know whenever we are issuing invoice, that is what is the date of invoice. Okay, what is the last date of invoice? That is given under section 31. See, this is the tax invoice due date. So by this date tax invoice shall be issued. So this is what the last date of issuing the invoice as per section 31. Okay, tax invoice to the extent relevant to the time of supply of goods as per section 12 subsection 2. Okay, right. In this, a registered person supplying taxable goods shall before or at the time of supply, that means before supply only or at the time of supply only he has to issue tax invoice. Okay, right. At the time of supply, removal of the goods for the supply to the recipient where the supply involves movement of goods, so invoice shall be issued on or before the date of removal. Removal for what? Removal for supply. When the goods involves movement, that means goods has to be moved from one place to another place. When the goods has to be moved from one place to another place, in such cases, on or before the date of the movement, on or before the date of removal for the movement, invoice shall be issued. That means when the goods are being moved, by that time invoice shall be issued. So without invoice you cannot make the movement of the goods. Correct? This is what the first point is. Right? Clause here. Next, in case a registered person supplying taxable goods shall, before or at the time of delivery of goods or making available thereof to the recipient, in any other case, delivery of goods. See, when the removal of goods or movement of goods means, see, from the supplier place to recipient place, there involves a movement of goods. Like from his place to their place, the goods has to be transferred. So delivery or making available goods means you are going to the shop and collecting the goods there at. In the shop itself you are collecting the goods. That is what is delivery. So bill shall be given before handing over the goods to you. So without bill you cannot take goods. With respect to delivery, that means on the spot delivery will be there, no? So for those cases, so bill has to be given. Bill shall be given on or before the time for the delivery. Okay. Next, see here, making available thereof to the recipient in any other case. Making available thereof to the recipient in any other case. That means as it is. As it is. Likewise, see, if these benches are there. Yes. Okay. See, making available. Making available means these benches are there. Okay. See, these benches are like previously a institute is there here. So benches belongs to that institute. Now that institute vacated, we came in here. So now we have taken those furniture. We have taken those benches from them. Okay. So benches are supplied here only. No need to make any movement. Just they made us available the benches. They made us available the benches. Likewise, they have the projector is theirs. Before we came in here, the projector is there. Okay, we want the projector in same condition. We asked them. Okay, they supplied the projector to us. So that is what is called making available thereof. Making available thereof. So in such cases, whenever there is an involvement of delivery, on or before such delivery, whenever there is a removal of goods, on or before the date of removal, whenever there is making available, on or before the date of making available, what shall be issued? Invoice shall be issued. So that means without invoice, goods shall not be moved. Without invoice, goods shall not be moved. If a truck started from supplier place to recipient place without carrying bill or invoice, means it is illegal. That means it is violation to GST. So even any policeman can stop the vehicle and ask for the invoice. If the invoice is not there, they can seize the vehicle. Got this? Right. So on or before the date of removal, they have to get the invoice. Okay. Right. Other relevant cases. Okay. So a registered person supplying taxable goods shall before or at the time of removal of the goods for supply to the recipient where the supply involves movement. On or before or at the time of delivery of goods or making available thereof to the recipient in any other case. Okay, what he has to do? He shall issue a tax invoice. He shall issue a tax invoice. So in the tax invoice, what shall be there? Showing the description of the goods, showing the description of the goods, showing the quantity of the goods, showing the value of the goods, showing the tax charged thereon, what is the rate of tax and what is the tax amount, and such other particulars as may be prescribed. So other particulars what will be prescribed, that will be shown, like supplier's address, supplier's GST number, recipient address, recipient GST number, HSN code, SAC code, all those has to be mentioned. Okay, all those has to be mentioned, provided that government may, on the recommendations of the council by notification, specify the category of the goods or supplies in respect of which a tax invoice shall be issued within such time and in such manner as may be prescribed. Okay, right. So this is a provision, this is an exception, right? So in case of continuous supply of goods, in case of continuous supply of goods, where successive statement, continuous supply of goods means, so one supplier is there, one builder is there or a construction contractor is there, he will be always in need of a cement, he will be always in need of steel, he will always be in need of bricks. Likewise, he will be like always he wants the supplies from the particular supplier, there will not be any break for that, so he is keep on doing some projects. In such cases, there is a continuous supply of goods. In such cases, where the successive statement of accounts or successive payments are involved, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time of each such statement. So each such statement, there will be some statement between them. So on so and so date, so 2 loads of cement has been sent, or 2000 bags of cement has been sent on so and so date, 1000 cement bags has been sent on so and so date, 100 tons of steel has been sent. So likewise, there will be a statement for every week or for every 10 days or every 15 days, there will be a statement between them, that is called statement of accounts. Okay, right. Or successive payments are involved, like he will be paying some installments, within 10 days he is paying some 10 lakhs, after 5 days he is paying some 15 lakhs. So likewise, successive payments are being made. So in such cases, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time of each such statement. So whenever you are making a statement of account, before such statement of account, you shall issue an invoice. Okay, issued, or as the case may be, each such payment is received. Whenever he is receiving a payment, before such payment, he has to issue such invoice. Okay, so in case of continuous supply of goods, okay, notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1, where goods being sent or taken on approval for sale or return or removed before the supply takes place, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time of supply or 6 months from the date of removal, whichever is earlier. So goods sent on taken on approval for sale or return basis, that is sale on approval or return basis. That means goods will be sent to a particular recipient. Okay, so if the recipient is liking the goods, means he will retain it. Okay, then the sale will be made. If he is not liking it, he will send back. Right. So in such cases, if the goods are sent on sale on approval basis, goods will be sent, those will be trailed. So if they like it, so the sale will be materialized. In such cases, so invoice shall be issued within 6 months. Within 6 months. So if within 6 months the goods are not returned, means, see, if the sale has to materialize, then if the sale is materialized within 6 months, means when the sale is materialized, invoice has to be issued. If the sale is not materialized within 6 months, then when the 6 months is getting expired, the very next moment invoice has to be issued. So that means there is a 6 months time for sale on approval basis. So that means within 6 months sale has to be materialized, sale has to be confirmed. If the sale is confirmed, that date will be the date of invoice. If the sale is not confirmed within 6 months, after the expiry of 6 months, invoice date will be issued. Okay, that is the last date for issuing invoice. So three cases we have read. 3 cases. What are those? When the goods involves movement or goods involves no movement, that means delivery or making available the goods. So in such cases, on or before the date of movement of goods, on or before the date of removal of goods, or on or before the date of delivery, on or before the date of delivery, or on or before the date of making available thereof to the recipient. Okay, so this is what we read with respect to goods. With respect to goods. Okay, next, in case of continuous supply of goods, in case of continuous supply of goods, where the supply involves statement of accounts, where there is a statement of accounts between the supplier and the recipient, in such cases on or before such statement, whenever there is a payment received, on or before such payment. Okay, next, in case of sale or return basis, sale on approval basis, sale on approval basis, or say sale or return basis, in such cases, if the sale is materialized within a period of 6 months, sale is accepted within 6 months, then date of sale will be the last date for issuing invoice. If it is not accepted within 6 months, no. Okay, right. So goods are sent or taken on approval for sale or return removed before the supply takes place. The invoice shall be issued before or at the time of supply. Invoice shall be issued before or at the time of supply. What is the time of supply? Before or at the time of sale. Okay, or 6 months from the end of the removal, whichever is earlier. That means when the sale is materialized on such date, if the sale is not confirmed within 6 months. Okay, at the time of 6 months, right? So this is what the due date of invoice. This is what is the due date of invoice. So you know the due date of invoice, then you can apply the last date of invoice here. So here in this case, so we have studied section 12 subsection 2 clause A, where what is the time of supply of the goods in case of forward charge mechanism means it is the date of invoice or last date of invoice, whichever is earlier, date of invoice or last date of invoice, whichever is earlier. See here we have taken the example of this one. See here, 15th June advance has been received 50,000, 15th July supply made, 16th July invoice issued, August 2nd payment received. Okay, you just tell me what is the date of invoice. Date of invoice 16th July. What is the due date of invoice? What is the due date of invoice? This is date of invoice. What is the due date of invoice? What is the due date of invoice? As per section 31, due date of when the goods involves movement on or before the date of removal of goods. When the goods involves delivery on or before the date of delivery. Okay, when the supply made on 15th July, the supply is being made on 15th July means invoice shall be issued on or before 15th July. On 15th July or before 15th July you can issue invoice. Now you are issuing invoice on 16th July. 16th July. Whether it is correct, it is not correct, because the due date of invoice is over, expired. Okay, so now so if you have to get with the date of time of supply, what is the time of supply here in this case? What is the time of supply here? Forget about the first case. In the second case, you just tell me what is the time of supply. In this case, 15th June 5 lakhs total payment received. 15th July invoice supply made. What is the time? What is this time of supply? Date of invoice or due date of invoice. Date of invoice and due date of invoice are same in this case. Correct? Same in this case. What is the due date of invoice? 15th July. Why it is 15th July? It is the date when supply is made. Supply is made. So on or before 15th we have to issue invoice. When we have issued invoice? 15th. Okay, thus that way it is date of invoice or due date of invoice, both are same. So what will be the time of supply? 15th July only. We no need to consider the payment date. We no need to consider the payment date because it is a case of goods. Whenever it is a case of supply of goods, we no need to consider payment date, except when the goods are specified actionable claims. Then you have to consider payment date. Other than that, you no need to consider payment date. You got this? Right. So see, let's say if the invoice issued on 16th July, Invoice issued on 16th July. Supply is made on 15th July. Then what is the time of supply? 15th July. Okay, let's say if the invoice issued on 14th July. 14th July. What is the time of supply? 14th July. Date of invoice or due date of invoice? Date of invoice 14th. Due date of invoice 15th. So what is the time of supply? What? 14th July. Whichever is earlier. Date of invoice or due date of invoice, whichever is earlier. Okay. So you have the knowledge that on advance there will not be any GST. Okay. Now just tell me if this is the case. In this case, what will be the time of supply? In this case, what will be the time of supply? July. 15th July. 15th July. Right. So with respect to 5 lakhs, 4,50,000 or 50,000. 5 lakhs. Okay. 5 lakhs. Entire 5 lakhs has to be considered once only. So even though you are receiving 50,000 in advance, that need not be considered. Even though you are receiving the payment many days after the supply, you need not consider that. If you are receiving advance also, you need not consider. Even if you are receiving the payment later also, you need not consider. So if you are dealing in goods, in such cases you no need to consider the date of payment. So now you just have to see only when the supply is made. When the invoice issued. Okay, earlier of these two dates. What is that? Date of invoice or date of supply? Date of supply is nothing but on or before such date invoice has to be issued. Due date of invoice. Okay, date of invoice or due date of invoice, whichever is earlier. You got this point, right? We'll see. Okay, so time of supply of goods shall be the earliest of the following dates, namely the date of invoice, issue of invoice by the supplier, or last date on which he is required under section 31 to issue the invoice with respect to supply. So you got this point, or the date on which the supplier receives the payment with respect to the supply. So this is applicable in all the cases, sir? It is not applicable in all the cases. It just apply to specified actionable claims. Specified actionable claim, right? Okay. Now there is a proviso here. So which tells about that? Which tells that that where the supplier of the taxable goods or goods receives an amount of up to 1,000 rupees in excess of the amount indicated in the tax invoice. So we have indicated 9,112 rupees. Okay, 9,112 is the invoice amount. We have received 10,000. That means we have received 88 rupees extra. Correct? 888 rupees extra we have received. So for this extra amount we have received. See, we have issued the bill for 1912. So we have received 10,000 rupees. So 888 rupees we have received extra. So for that excess amount, it is telling that provided that where the supplier of the taxable goods receives an amount up to 1,000 rupees in excess of the amount indicated in the tax invoice. Up to 1,000 rupees you are receiving as advance. That means advance or excess amount. When compared to the invoice value, you are receiving excess amount, no, 888 rupees, and that too less than 1,000 rupees. In such cases, the time of supply to the extent of such excess. So time of supply with respect to this 888 shall be at the option of the said supplier, be the date of issue of the invoice in respect of such excess amount. So at the option of the supplier, that means who is receiving the amount? Supplier is receiving the excess amount. So with respect to the excess amount, when you are issuing invoice, you may adjust that 888 rupees, 888 in the next bill. So then the time of supply will arise. So sometimes 888 is there, no, you are receiving such advance. See, if you are receiving more than 1,000 rupees, if you are receiving more than 1,000 rupees in advance, in such cases, then he will not wait up to the next bill. He will not wait up to the next bill. Okay. So this is what the provision here, right? Next. Here, see, they are telling that supplier receives the payment, date of payment we are using now. The date on which the supplier receives the payment shall be the date on which the payment is entered in the books, or date on which the payment is credited to the bank account, whichever is earlier. Okay, right. See, date of payment. Date of payment. From the supplier point of view, from the receiver point of view, or recipient point of view, from the supplier point of view, from recipient point of view. So date of payment means, so you will issue a check. Okay, you will issue a check. Okay, so upon issuing the check, so just like BRS, okay, upon issuing the check, you will enter in your books of accounts. Okay, you will create the cash bank account. You will create the bank account. You will debit the receiver. Okay, so sometimes what you will do, see here, we are talking from supplier point of view, no? Correct. No. So in this case, payment will be entered. Payment will be entered when you are receiving the check. So it will be deposited to the bank account, maybe at a later point of time, or maybe deposited to the bank account but got cleared after 1 or 2 days. Okay, there is a difference between entry in the books of accounts and date of payment, date of actual credit in the bank account. There is a difference. So whichever is earlier has to be taken as date of payment. Whichever is earlier will be taken as date of payment. So date of entry in the books of accounts or date of credit in the bank account, whichever is earlier will be taken as the date of payment. Okay, likewise from the point of view of the recipient, date of entry in the books of accounts or date of debitor creditor. With respect to supplier, it is credit. That means we are receiving the amount. With respect to recipient, it is debit because he is paying the amount. So date of entry in the books of accounts or date of payment or debit in the bank account, whichever is earlier. So will be the date of payment. Okay. So that is what the explanation here. For the purpose of clause B, okay, the date on which the supplier receives the payment shall be the date on which the payment is entered in the books of accounts or date on which the payment is credited to his bank account, whichever is earlier. Okay, so when the supplier receives the payment, right? Next, see, in case of supplies in respect of which tax is paid or liable to be paid on reverse charge basis. Tax is paid or liable to be paid on reverse charge basis under RCM cases. So in 12 subsection 2, forward charge mechanism. 12 subsection 3, reverse charge mechanism. So reverse charge, time of supply of goods in case of reverse charge mechanism. Okay, so what will be the time of supply? Here you see, time of supply shall be the earliest of the following dates, namely date of receipt of goods, when you have received the goods, or date of payment as entered in the books of accounts of the recipient, or date on which the payment is debited in his bank account, whichever is earlier. Okay, simply in the earlier clause in section 12 subsection 2, it is mentioned as date of payment, and for that he has given an explanation saying that date of payment means date of credit or date of entry in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier. Here he is directly giving that date of payment or date of entry in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier, or date immediately following 30 days from the date of issue of invoice. From the date of issue of invoice, 30 days you have to add. Invoice plus 30 days you have to add. That means 31st day from the date of invoice. 31st day from the date of invoice, whichever is earlier. So technically how many dates are coming? 4 dates are coming. How? The date of receipt of goods, one. Next, date of receipt of goods, one. Next, date of payment. Date of payment means date of credit in the bank, debit in the bank account. date of entry in the books of accounts, and lastly 31st day from the date of invoice. Date of invoice. That means you should be knowing the date of invoice. You should be knowing the date of invoice. So out of these four, whichever is the earlier date, that will be the time of supply. Out of these four dates, which will be the earlier date, that will be the time of supply. So date of receipt of goods, date of payment as entered in the books of accounts, or date of debit in the bank account, or date of 31st day from the date of issue of invoice. Okay. So in case of reverse charge mechanism with respect to goods, time of supply of goods will be date of receipt of goods or date of payment. Date of payment means debit in the bank account or entry in the books of accounts, or 31st day from the date of invoice, whichever is earlier, by whatever name called in lieu of the supplier. Okay, by whatever name called in lieu thereof by the supplier. Okay, right. See, provided that where it is not possible to determine the time of supply under clause A, B or C. Clause A, B or C. That means you don't know any of these dates. See here, you don't know any of this date. You don't know receipt of goods, you don't know date of payment, or you don't know date immediately preceding 31st day. You don't know the date of invoice. In such cases, time of supply shall be the date of entry in the books of accounts of the recipient of supply. Just time of supply will be the entry in the books of accounts. Whenever you are making an entry in the books of accounts, that on this day these goods has been received karke, you have made an entry. So that entry date will be the time of supply. If these dates are not known, if you don't have information with respect to date of invoice, with respect to receipt of goods, with respect to payment, you don't have any information. In such cases, just date of entry in the books of accounts on which the goods has been received, that will be the which is nothing but time of supply. With respect to reverse charge mechanism in case of goods. Reverse charge mechanism in case of goods. Now in case of supply of vouchers by a supplier, the time of supply shall be, see, section 12 subsection 2, time of supply, okay, of goods under forward charge mechanism. 12 subsection 3, time of supply of goods under reverse charge mechanism. 12 subsection 4, okay, time of supply of goods only in case of vouchers. Vouchers means coupons. Okay, right. So in case of supply of vouchers by a supplied person, by a supplier, the time of supply shall be date of issue of voucher if the supply is identifiable at that point. See, we are purchasing a voucher, we are purchasing a coupon. Okay, for 500 rupees you are purchasing a coupon. So with this coupon, if you enter into a shopping mall, so you can apply this coupon on any purchase. So whatever you purchase, you will have a discount of 600 rupees. You are purchasing the coupon at 500 rupees, you will have a discount of 600 rupees. Likewise, there is an offer. So you are going to a shopping mall, on any product which you are purchasing, you are applying this coupon, means you will get a discount. That means you are redeeming the coupon on a product which is not known at the time of supply. Correct? It is not known. It is the value of the coupon is 500. On what product you will use it, you don't know. On what product you may use it on a particular product which is having 5% rate. You may use it on another product which is having 12% rate. We don't know on what product you are going to use it. So when the voucher is used with respect to a particular product which is unidentifiable at the time of supply, in such cases the time of supply will be date of redemption. When you are using that voucher, when you are using that coupon. So whenever you already know, while issuing the voucher only, you already know the supply, like on what products you are using that coupon. While issuing the voucher only, while selling the voucher only, you know supply is identifiable that time. So this is a food coupon or this is a shirt coupon. Whenever you are purchasing a shirt, on that shirt purchase only it will be applicable. Whenever you are purchasing a trouser, on that only it will be applicable. Likewise, if the supply is identifiable at the time of issue of the vouchers, then the time of supply will be time of issue of vouchers. Whenever the supply is not identifiable at the time of issue, then it will be date of redemption. Got this? Right. So date of issue of voucher if the supply is identifiable at that point, or date of redemption of the voucher in all other cases. Understand this? Okay, right. Same is the case with service also. If it is a goods coupon, if it is shopping coupon, this is so date of issue of voucher identifiable at that point. If it is not identifiable, redemption of the voucher. Same provision will be reflected in services also. Same provision will be reflected in services also. But if it is a service coupon, that will apply. If it is a goods coupon, it will apply. But the provision is same. Okay. Next, where it is not possible to determine the time of supply under the provisions of subsection 2, subsection 3, or subsection 4. Subsection 3, subsection 4, subsection 5. Sorry, subsection 2, 3, 4. So with this, by applying these provisions, you are not able to find out time of supply. If you are not able to find out time of supply, in such cases, so you have to go for residual case, which is subsection 5. So as per subsection 5, you have to determine time of supply. In this, how you will determine time of supply? So time of supply will be in a case where periodical returns has to be filed. Periodical returns means periodical. Tax period means monthly or quarterly, as the case may be. So sometimes it is monthly, sometimes it is quarterly. So that is nothing but periodical. Monthly returns means periodical return. Quarterly return means periodical return. So whenever periodical returns has to be filed, be the date on which such return is to be filed. So time of supply will be the date on which return has to be filed. When the periodical return is applicable, the date on which the periodical return has to be filed. So in any other case means when the periodical return is not required to be filed. That means even that also you can make a point. Okay, in such cases, in any other case, be the date on which the tax is paid. Whenever you are paying tax, that is the time of supply. This is the residual case. At the end, so we don't have any other option to determine the time of supply. Whenever you are paying tax, that will be the time of supply. Okay, so this is the residual case. The same residual case will be there in services also. We are talking about goods now. Same residual case will be there in services also. So 3 points will be similar. 3 points, subsection 6 also. Subsection 6. So subsection 4, subsection 5 and subsection 6 are same as it is with respect to goods and with respect to services. So but this is section 12, subsection 4, subsection 5, subsection 6. That is 13 subsection 4, subsection 5, subsection 6. Same points will be repeated there also. Okay, right. So in case of time of supply, to the extent it relates to an addition in the value of the supply. Addition in the value of the supply by way of interest, late fees, penalty, or delayed payment of any consideration. This we have seen in value of supply. Under this we have seen in value of supply. What is that? Interest, late fees, penalty we have seen. As per section 15. 2D we have seen. So there we are adding that interest to value. So on such interest, when the GST is payable, payable, see, we are fixing the point. Now by determining the time of supply provisions, what we are doing, we are fixing the point. When the GST is payable. So when the GST is payable with respect to interest, with respect to late fees, with respect to penalty, when the interest is payable, when they are paying interest to us, when the recipient is paying interest to us, recipient is paying interest to the supplier, when we are collecting late fees, when we are collecting the penalty, then we have to pay GST. Then the time of supply for such payment of GST arises. Okay, time of supply arises. So time of supply, to the extent it relates to an addition in the value of supply by way of interest, late fees, penalty for delayed payment of any consideration, shall be the date on which the supplier receives such addition in value. Whenever he is receiving interest, whenever he is receiving late fees, whenever he is receiving any other penalty. Okay, so that time of supply arises. When the time of supply is arising means point of time at which the GST liability arises. Okay, so at this point, at this date or at this month, the GST liability arising means in the next month you have to pay GST by 20th. Okay, so this is what is time of supply with respect to goods. Time of supply with respect to goods. In this we have discussed section 12 character. Section 12. Under this subsection 1 is there. What subsection 1 is telling? So time of supply with respect to goods. will be determined as per section 12. This is what subsection 1 is telling. This is what subsection 1 is telling. So section 12 subsection 1 is telling that time of supply of goods will be determined as per section 12. Okay, that is what is there in 12.1. In 12.2 what is there? 12.2 time of supply of goods in case of forward charge mechanism. What is the time of supply? Date of issue of invoice. When you are issuing invoice, that will be the date, or last date of invoice, whichever is earlier of the 2 days. That means you should be knowing when the invoice shall be issued, by what date invoice shall be issued. That is what is called last date of invoice. Where it is given? Where? Section under section 31 it is mentioned. So section 31 is telling that as per section 31, whenever it is a case of supply of goods, and the goods involves, when the supply involves movement. Okay, so supply involves movement. Okay, so supply involves no movement. Okay, no movement, delivery or making available. Okay, so on or before the removal of goods. Okay, so on or before the delivery. Correct? Okay, right. So under this section 31, with respect to continuous supply of goods, we have seen the last date for issue of invoice. Correct? Due date for issue of invoice. In this, when statement of accounts are being prepared and issued, so on or before such a statement, when the payments are made on or before the date of payment, invoice has to be issued. Correct? Right. Next we have seen on sale on approval basis. In this case, invoice shall be issued within 6 months or on the date of sale, that is confirmation of sale, whichever is earlier. So this is what is the date of invoice with respect to goods, last date of invoice with respect to goods. So by this date invoice shall be issued. So here as per section 12 subsection 2, time of supply of goods under forward charge mechanism is date of issue of invoice or last date of issue of invoice, whichever is earlier. So what is the last date for issue of invoice? As per section 31 it is given when in movement involves, okay, on or before the removal of goods, when no movement involves, on or before the date of delivery or on or before the date of making available. Correct? Right. So next we have seen section 12 subsection 3, time of supply of goods under reverse charge mechanism. Under reverse charge mechanism, so in this what is the date? Date of receipt of goods, when you are receiving the goods. Okay, receipt of goods. Date of payment, or date of payment means date of credit or date of entry in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier. Next, date of invoice plus 30 days. That is 31st day from the date of invoice, whichever is earlier. Technically these are 4 dates. Out of these 4 dates, which is the earlier date, that will be the time of supply. Right. Next, 12.4, it is talking about vouchers. Okay, so vouchers, identifiable vouchers aithe, if it is identifiable vouchers at the time of supply, then date of issue of the vouchers will be time of supply. When these are not identifiable, date of redemption will be the time of supply. Got this? Right. Whenever it is case of, fifth case, interest, penalty, like this, Okay, interest, penalty, late fees likewise. So 12 subsection 5. In case of interest, late fees, penalty, etc. So whenever you are receiving such interest, whenever you are receiving such late fees, that will be the time of supply. That will be the time of supply. That is only no provision, section 12 subsection 5. What it is there? Sorry. 6, that is under 5. Whenever time of supply is cannot be determined as per subsection 2 or subsection 3 or subsection 4, this is a residual section where periodical returns are required to be filed. Time of supply will be the date of filing of return. So otherwise, when the taxes are being paid, that will be the time of supply. Okay. Next, sixth case, interest, late fees, penalty. In such cases, whenever you are receiving such interest, late fees, penalty, that will be the time of supply. Okay. So this is with respect to time of supply of goods under forward charge mechanism and reverse charge mechanism. Okay. Right. So, okay. Right. So far we have covered section 12. Now we are moving to section 13. Right. So in section 13 we are going to discuss 6 subsections. So as per section 13 we will discuss 6 subsections. So where we are going to talk about time of supply of services under forward charge mechanism, under reverse charge mechanism, in case of supply of vouchers, in case of enhancement in value, and in residual cases. Just like section 12, we are going to study section 13 as well. So in this also, the 5 provisions need to be understood. Okay. So out of that, section 13 subsection 1 is a nominal provision where it is telling that the liability to pay tax on services, shall arise at the time of, just a minute. The liability to pay tax on services shall arise at the time of supply as determined in terms of the provisions of this section. Okay, right. So section 13 subsection 2 is talking about time of supply of services in case of forward charge mechanism. Okay, so this also linked to the date of invoice, due date of invoice. This also linked to due date of invoice, where the due date of invoice has been covered as per section 31. So for services also there will be a due date of invoice which is given under section 31. So where it is telling that, see here, the relevant section extract is there here. So section 31, where we are going to talk about due date of invoice in case of services. So just like goods, in case of services also we need to talk about tax invoice due date. Right. And in cases of continuous supply of services also. For services, we cannot have this sale on approval basis. Correct? No. For services we cannot have sale on approval basis. Right? Okay. So a registered person supplying taxable services shall before or at the, see in the provision nothing will be there. In the provision as per section nothing will be there. So they will tell that as per the, so they don't tell the time directly, that within what time they have to issue invoice. They will not determine the time directly. Okay. So they will just tell that, see, a registered person supplying taxable services shall before or after the provision of service. Whenever you are providing service, shall before or after. That means there is no such time limiter. You can issue after the provision of service or before the time of provision of service. So whenever you issue, you can issue, but within the prescribed period. That means there is a limitation. So you should not go beyond this date. You should not go beyond this time period. Okay, there is a limitation. So issue a tax invoice showing the description, value, tax charged thereon, and such other particulars as may be prescribed. Okay. So within the time prescribed, within the time prescribed is there, no? So what is the time limit prescribed for that? Is given under Rule 47. Is given under Rule 47 of the CGST rules. So it is telling that the invoice referred to in Rule 46 in case of taxable supply of services, shall be issued within a period of 30 days. Shall be issued within a period of 30 days from the date of supply of service. Okay. So if you are going for an audit, okay, if you are going for an audit is completed. So by 10th of July, audit is completed. So when you have to issue invoice? Before the commencement of audit, or during the audit, or after the completion of audit. Whenever you want, you can issue invoice, but not later than 30 days. So 10th July audit has been completed. So 10th July plus 30 days. 10th July plus 30 days. What the date will be? 10th July plus 30 days. What the date will be? 9th or 10th? I think 10th. 10th August will be the last date for issue of invoice. So this is a service, taxable service. So for such taxable service, the taxable person has to issue invoice to the client. So when he has to issue the invoice, he can issue at any time, before the time of supply or after, before the provision of service or after the provision of service. But it shall be issued within a period of 30 days from the date of completion of service. Within 30 days from the date of completion of service. So shall be issued within a period of 30 days from the date of supply of service. Okay, correct. Okay, but whenever it is a case of banking company, whenever it is a case of bank, whenever it is a case of financial institutions, in case of NBFCs, in case of insurance companies, NBFCs in case of insurance companies. See, banking company, financial institutions, NBFC, insurance company, the time limit is 45 days. The time limit is not just 30 days, it is 45 days. So whenever the bank wants to issue the invoice, bank can raise invoice, bank can issue invoice, but within a period of 45 days from the date of completion of the service. Okay, so the same is the case with insurance company also. Same is the case with NBFCs also. So the 45 days time has been given as per the Rule 47 of CGST rules. Okay, right. Next, see here, now we will go on to the main provision. So actually we have this this thing with respect to in continuous supply of services, date of invoice, last date to issue invoice in case of continuous supply of service. So what is continuous supply of service? Continuous supply of service means when the service is being continued for a period of more than 3 months. That will be termed as continuous supply of service. Let's say if you have an internet connection, that can be termed as a continuous supply of service. Okay, continuous supply of service. But there will be a due date for it. So for every month we need to pay an amount. For every 15 days or every 2 months you have to make the payment. That means there is a specified due date for it. Okay, if there is a specified due date, so then invoice shall be issued on or by that due date. Okay, by that due date. See here, so whenever there is a continuous supply of service where the due date of the payment is ascertainable means that is as per the agreement of connection, okay, or as per the agreement of provision of service. Do you have any date which is ascertainable? Do you have a prefixed date for the due date? Okay, so in such cases from the contract the invoice shall be issued on or before the due date of payment. Is where the due date of the payment is not ascertainable. So the invoice shall be issued before or at the time when the supplier of the service receives the payment. So whenever you are making the payment, whenever he is receiving the payment, so he has to issue the invoice. Okay, on or before the date of receipt of the payment. When the payment is linked to a completion of an event. So completion of an event means whenever you are providing services. Whenever you are providing services continuously, whenever the payment is linked with a particular event, particular event. In such cases, that event has been completed. That means phase 1 is completed, phase 2 is completed. Likewise, if it is connected with an event, so if such event is completed, so by the time the invoice has to be issued, on or before the date of such completion of that event, invoice has to be issued. So in case of continuous supply of services, where there is continuous supply of services for a period more than 3 months, that will be termed as a continuous supply of service. In case when in such cases, when you have to issue the invoice, so invoice shall be issued on or before the date of payment when the due date is ascertained. If the due date is not ascertained, on or before the date of payment when the payment is received by the recipient, received by the supplier, by the time, so invoice has to be issued. So if it is linked to a particular event, on or before the completion of such event, invoice has to be issued. Okay, right. So in case where the supplier of service ceases under a contract before the completion of the supply, that means sometimes you have taken up a supply that you are going to provide some service, but while doing the service has been stopped. That means there may be a issue, there may be a dispute between the supplier and the recipient. So it is not going as per the plan. So in the middle it became stop, but like it became halt. So in such cases, the invoice has to be issued on or before the completion of the supply. So invoice shall be issued when the supply ceases, when the provision of service got stopped, by the time invoice has to be issued, and such invoice shall be issued to the extent of the supply made before cessation. So let's say if it is for 1 lakh contract, but it just went up to a 20%, 20,000 is being charged. In such cases, invoice shall be issued for 20,000 only. Okay, but at what time invoice shall be issued? So when the supply is ceased, when the supply is stopped, by the time invoice shall be issued. So these are the due dates by which the invoice shall be issued with respect to services. Due date by which invoice shall be issued with respect to services. How many we have discussed? Only 2 things here. So with respect to supply of services, first thing is invoice can be issued at any time, but within 30 days. From which date? From provision of service. So this 30 days will be replaced with 45 days in case of banking company, insurance company, financial institutions, NBFC. Correct? In case of continuous supply of service, in case of continuous supply of service, payment due date is there. Okay, on or before such payment due date. If the payment due date is not ascertained, in such cases, on or before the date of payment. Okay, so if the payment is linked to a particular event, okay, on or before the event. Correct? On or before the event, right? Okay, so in case of continuous supply of service, when the service ceased in between, service stopped in between, in such cases, upon seizure of such supply, invoice has to be issued. So on or before the date of cessation of service, okay, of seizure of service, invoice shall be issued. So this is what is as per section 31, due date for issue of invoice in case of services, in case of provision of services or supply of services. So why we need this due date for issue of invoice? Why we need this? So at any cost, the supplier who is supplying has to issue invoice. Sometimes the recipient. Generally, who will issue invoice? Supplier will issue invoice. So even in case of reverse charge mechanism also, we have made a discussion on this. See, forward charge mechanism, reverse charge mechanism. Under forward charge mechanism, supplier has to issue invoice. Supplier is a registered person. He is collecting GST from the recipient, hence he has to issue GST invoice or a tax invoice. Okay, supplier has to issue. So in case of reverse charge mechanism, supplier is registered. In case of reverse charge mechanism, when the supplier is registered person, then in such cases, supplier only will issue the invoice. Okay, so whenever it is a case of unregistered person, supplier is an unregistered person. Reverse charge mechanism, supplier is unregistered person, but on this transaction, who has to pay GST? Recipient has to pay GST. In such cases, recipient will issue self-tax invoice. We already told this. Okay, remember this? Okay, self-tax invoice. Do you remember this? Right. Self-tax invoice. So reverse charge mechanism, reverse charge mechanism. So supplier, in reverse charge mechanism also, if supplier is registered person, he has to issue the invoice. Otherwise, self tax invoice shall be issued by the recipient. Okay, right. So why we want the due date for issuing of invoice? Why we want the due date of issuing of invoice? Why we want? So in order to determine the time of supply. So when the GST liability arises, in order to fix that date, we need due date for issuing of invoice. Okay, so now section 13 subsection 2 is determining the time of supply of services under forward charge mechanism. Section 13 subsection 2 is determining time of supply of what is the time of supply of time of supply for services under forward charge mechanism. In that, see, what are the parameters? What are the parameters? Date of issue of invoice by the supplier, date of issue of invoice by the supplier, or the date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. What are the parameters? Date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier they are telling. Provided if the invoice is issued within the time as per section 31. If the invoice is issued timely, if the invoice is issued on time, then the date of issue of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. That means service has been supplied on 1st July, service. Okay, 1st July service made. So invoice issued on 15th July. Payment made on 15th August. Payment made on 15th August. Okay, so on 1st July service supplied. On 15th July invoice issued. Okay, on 15th August payment made. Payment made. So what will be the time of supply now? What will be the time of supply? 15th July. How? Date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay. Provided invoice is issued within the time. Invoice issued within the time, as per section 31. Within the time, how you are telling? Within 30 days they have issued. So date of provision of service is 1st July. So within 30 days they have issued the invoice. That is by 15th July they have, on 15th July they have issued the invoice, which is within 30 days. So in such cases, when the invoice is issued on time as per section 31, in such cases date of invoice or date of payment will be the, whichever is earlier will be the date of time of supply. Okay. So what is date of payment? What is date of payment? Date of payment means date of entry in the books of accounts or date of credit to the bank account of the supplier, whichever is earlier. Because we are talking about forward charge mechanism. That's why from the point of view of the supplier, date of credit has to be seen. So technically how many dates it will be? 3 dates it will be. So if it is not mentioned in the question, that date of payment, date of entry in the books of accounts and date of credit in the bank account is separate karke. If it is not mentioned in the bank account, that is one date only date of payment means. So if it is separately mentioned, then technically 3 dates will come. Date of invoice will come, date of invoice will come, date of payment means 2 dates will come. Okay, date of entry in the books of accounts, date of credit in the bank account. Okay, so, right. So if the invoice is not issued within the time, if the invoice is not issued within the time, then what will be the consequence? Then what will be the time of supply? If the invoice is not issued within the time, then it is not linked to the date of invoice, it is linked to the date of provision of service. So when you are giving supply, when you are providing the services, okay, in such case, so date of provision of service or date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier, if the invoice is not issued within time, within the period prescribed. What is the period prescribed? 30 days. 30 days is the period prescribed. So within 30 days, if they have not issued invoice, then the date of, then the time of supply will be date of provision of service or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Date of payment, whichever is. Now tell me if the invoice is issued on 5th July, sorry, 5th August. 5th August, the invoice has been issued. So now what will be the date of, what will be the time of supply? On 5th August, invoice issued. See, what is this? Supply made on, supply made on 10th July. Supply made on 10th July. Okay. invoice issued on 15th August. Invoice issued on 15th August or 16th August. Next, payment made on 20th August. Payment made on 20th August. Okay, now tell me what is the time of supply? Time of supply of services under forward charge mechanism. What is the time of supply of services under forward charge mechanism? Okay, supply made on 10th July. Invoice on 16th August. Payment on 20th August. Time of supply will be? Time of supply will be? 10th July? 10th July? Generally, what is the provision? What is the provision? Date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier, provided if the invoice is issued within time. Within time means 30 days. So invoice shall be issued within 30 days from the date of provision of service. So date of provision of service is 10th July. So invoice shall be issued by 10th August. Invoice shall be issued by 10th August. But when the invoice issued 16th August, that means invoice not issued within the time. Then what will be the provision now? Time of supply will be date of provision of service or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Date of payment, whichever is earlier. So then what will be the date of time of supply? 10th July. 10th July or 20th August, whichever is earlier. 10th July is the time of supply. Okay. So by this, what had happened? What had happened? The liability of GST has come to July month instead of August month. Okay, so if they could issue the invoice by 9th July, 9th August or 10th August. See, let's say if they have issued the invoice on if they have issued the invoice on, what are the dates? Invoice date on supply of service on 10th July. Okay, payment on 20th August. Okay, first case invoice on 16th August. In such case, time of supply is equals to date of supply of service, which is 10th July. So liability to pay GST on 20th August. So July month you are having time of supply. That means 20th August you have to make the payment. Okay. So if the invoice issued by 10th August, you say 10th August. So if the invoice issued on time, invoice issued within the time. That means within 30 days invoice has been issued. So if the invoice issued within time, in such cases what is the provision? Date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay. So what is the date of invoice? 10th August. 10th August or date of payment, whichever is earlier. 10th August. Okay na? 10th August will be the time of supply. If 10th August is the time of supply, what is the due date of GST? 20th September. 20th September. So if the invoice would have issued on time, then the due date will be 20th September. By not issuing the invoice on time, you need to make the payment of GST early, at least by 1 month in this case. So if you are issuing the invoice on a proper time, so then you will be having some more time to pay GST. Okay na? Right. Okay. See, clause A and B we have seen. Clause A and B as per section 13, subsection 2, clause A, clause B we have seen. Under clause A, what it is telling, if the invoice is issued within time, then time of supply will be date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. If it is not issued within time, clause B. Okay, what is that? Date of provision of service or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, so the date on which the recipient shows the, date on which the recipient shows the receipt of services. Okay, receipt of services in his books of accounts, in case where the provision of clause A or B or do not applies. So if A and B are not applicable, A and B are not applicable. So they are not having any information with respect to payment, with respect to invoice. Everything is in cash. They are not maintaining anything. In such cases, when they are entering in their books of accounts, okay, in such cases, date of entry in the books of accounts will be the time of supply. So right. Next, in case of excess payment received up to 1,000 rupees. Yesterday we have a discussion on this. Okay. Yesterday we had a discussion on this excess payment received of rupees 1,000. Okay, excess payment. That means the bill is yesterday we have taken 9,375, let's say. So we have received 10,000. 625 rupees we have received in excess. So in such cases, with respect to 625 rupees, if you want to issue the invoice on a later date, okay, or you want to adjust this 625 rupees in the next bill, then it is quite possible. So even if they are asking to adjust this 625 now also, so it is irrelevant, because 625 rupees is an advance, correct? 625 is an advance. So on 625 rupees advance, there is no GST. I mean, on advance, there is no GST, but it is irrelevant with respect to section 12. Advance with respect to goods. When comes to section 13, it is not irrelevant. It is quite necessary. When comes to section 13, whenever it is a case of supply of services, even if you are receiving advance, audit fees 1 lakh rupee, received 20,000 advance. On this advance of 20,000 rupees, you need to make the payment of GST. Okay. So even if you are receiving advance also, you have to make the payment of GST to the extent of such advance. Not on the full amount of supply, not on 1 lakh rupee. On 20,000 rupees only, you have to make the payment of GST. Okay, on advance, with respect to advance in case of service. If it is an advance in case of goods, means you no need to make payment of GST. Whenever the actual supply of goods is being made, then only GST will come. In case of goods, in case of services, you have to make the payment of GST. You have to make the payment of GST whenever you are receiving the advance. Okay, so now you tell me, so you are receiving up to 1,000 rupees in excess. So the value of the invoice value is 9375, but you are receiving 10,000 rupees. That means 675 rupees you are receiving extra. So whenever it is a case of goods, it is irrelevant. That means you are receiving advance, but still you no need to pay GST. Whenever you are making the actual supply, then only you will make the payment of GST. Okay. So now in the case of services, they are giving an option. Actually, if you are receiving advance on the 625 also, you have to pay the GST whenever you are receiving advance. But if you want, you can adjust this in the next bill. Whenever you are giving the next service, then only you can make the payment of GST. Then only the time of supply will come. You got this point? Excess of 1,000 rupees. But the privilege is only up to an extent of 1,000 rupees. 1,000 rupees means how much will be the amount of GST? A maximum 180 rupees or 200 rupees or 280 rupees. Okay, so that is the extent of allowance they are giving. Time allowance they are giving. That's all. Okay, so with respect to advance up to 1,000 rupees, actually it is payable when and where it is received. That means if you are receiving advance with respect to service, you have to pay GST on time whenever you are receiving. Okay, so if you want to defer the payment of GST in case of such advance up to 1,000 rupees, in the next bill you can adjust this. You got this point? This is what the provision here is. Next, in case of supply of goods, it is irrelevant. Even if they are giving that privilege also, it is irrelevant, because on advance we no need to pay the payment of GST. Right, next. See, supply shall be deemed to have been made to the extent it is covered by the invoice, or as the case may be the payment. So how much is there in the invoice, that much is the amount of supply that you have to take. Next, date of receipt of payment means we know that date of entry in the books of accounts or date of credit in the bank account, whichever is earlier. Okay, so this is the case of forward charge mechanism. Okay, time of supply of services under forward charge mechanism. As per section 13.3, we have to study now reverse charge mechanism. Time of supply of services in case of reverse charge mechanism. So in case of reverse charge mechanism, so see here, In case of supplies in respect of which tax is paid or liable to be paid on reverse charge basis, time of supply shall be the early of the following dates, which is that date of payment as entered in the books of accounts. Date of payment as entered in the books of accounts of the recipient, or date of payment is debited in his bank account, whichever is earlier. That means simply date of payment. So date of payment means two dates. What is that? Date of entry in the books of accounts or date of debit in the bank account, because we are talking reverse charge mechanism from the point of view of the recipient. That's why debit word will come. Okay, so date of payment as entered in the books of accounts of the recipient, or date on which the payment is debited in his bank account, whichever is earlier, or date immediately following 60 days from the date of issue of invoice or any other document by whatever name called, in lieu thereof by the supplier. That means invoice date plus 60 days, 61st day, simply two dates, simply two dates. What are those? In case of reverse charge mechanism, in order to fix the time of supply of services, okay, two dates. One is date of payment or date of 61st day from the date of invoice, whichever is earlier. Date of payment means date of debit in the bank account or date of entry in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier. Okay, so technically three dates will be there. Technically three dates will be there. So that's all. Okay, right. Next, provided further that in case of supply by associated enterprises where the supplier of the service is located outside India, where the supplier is located outside India, in case of associated enterprise, you know this associated enterprises definition, you know, okay, more than 24%, 20%, 25% voting power is there means, so then it is a case of associated enterprises. So if he is exercising control over the board or owning some or having some voting rights, then they will be called as associated enterprise. So associated enterprises, in case of supply by associated enterprises where the supplier of the service is located outside India, the time of supply shall be the date of entry in the books of accounts. Time of supply shall be the date of entry in the books of accounts of the recipient of the supply or date of payment, whichever is earlier. In case of associated enterprises, that means importation of services from associated enterprises. In such cases, date of entry in the books of accounts or date of payment, whichever is earlier. So now the remaining three cases we know. What is that? Vouchers, enhancement in the value, and residual cases. So with respect to vouchers, if it is identifiable, then time of supply will be date of issue of vouchers. If it is not identifiable, date of redemption of the vouchers. Okay, so in case of enhancement in value, date of enhancement in value, addition in the value, date of receipt of payment, when it is received. Okay, in case of residual cases, periodical returns are required to be filed, then date of return filing. So if it is not required, then whenever you are making the payment, that time will be the time of supply. So this is the residual case. So these are the 4, 5, 6 subsections. So in case of supply of vouchers, the time of supply shall be date of issue of vouchers. So if the supply is identifiable at that point, or date of redemption of the vouchers in all other cases. Date of redemption of vouchers in all other cases. Where it is not possible to determine the time of supply of service under provisions of subsection 2, 3, 4. Then the time of supply shall be, in case where periodical returns has to be filed, be the date on which such return is to be filed. Whenever you are required to file the return, then that will be the time of supply. So in any other case, be the date on which the tax is paid. On which date you are paying the tax, that time it will be the time of supply. So next, subsection 6, the time of supply to the extent it relates to an addition in the value of the supply by way of interest, late fees, penalty for a delayed payment of any consideration shall be the date on which supplier receives such addition in value. When the supplier is receiving such addition in value, when the supplier is receiving such interest, then the time of supply will be there. You got this? Okay, so this is all about section 13. This is all about section 13. So time of supply of services in case of forward charge mechanism, reverse charge mechanism, in case of vouchers, in case of addition in value, and in case of residual cases. And in residual cases. So this is, but relevant extract of section 31 is also seen. Okay, what is that? Due date for issue of invoice in case of services. What is the due date? It can be issued at any time, but not later than 30 days from the date of provision of service. Okay, so in case of banking company, insurance company, financial institutions, NBFC, so it shall not be more than 45 days. Okay, within that date, invoice shall be issued. Tax invoice shall be issued. Okay, so now tell me, as per section 13 subsection 2 forward charge mechanism, what is the time of supply of service? What is the time of supply of service under forward charge mechanism? As per section 13 subsection 2, what is the time of supply? Date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier, provided invoice issued on time as per section 31. If the invoice is not issued on time as per section 31, then date of provision of service or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, right. Next, in case of reverse charge mechanism, what is the time of supply of service? In case of reverse charge mechanism, date of payment or date of 61st day from the date of invoice date plus 60 days, whichever is earlier. What is the meaning of date of payment? Date of debit in the bank account of the recipient. Why debit? From the point of view of recipient, why? It is reverse charge mechanism. Okay, date of debit or date of entry in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier. Correct? Date of entry in the books of accounts or date of debit in the bank account or 61st day, whichever is earlier. In case of vouchers, if the supply is identifiable, date of issue. If it is not identifiable, then date of redemption. Residual cases, when periodical returns are required to be filed, date of filing of returns. Next, if not, date on which you are making the payment will be the time of supply. Next, addition in value. Whenever you are receiving such interest or delayed payment or late fees or whatever, okay, that will be the time of supply. Okay, so now have a reading of this section 12, 13 along with section 31. 12, 13 read with section 31. We have the chart of this section 13 here. Okay, time of supply of services under forward charge mechanism, where the invoice is issued within time, under 31. Then what will be the date? Date of issue of tax invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Date of payment means date of recording of payment in the books of accounts of the supplier or date of credit in the bank account, whichever is earlier. Okay, so simply date of invoice or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Date of payment means these two dates, whichever is earlier. Okay, correct? If the above events are unascertainable, time of supply will be date of receipt of services in the books of accounts of the recipient. So by this, with these parameters, if you are unable to determine, in such cases what you have to do, date of receipt of services in the books, whenever you are noting down that, so these services has been received in your books of accounts, that time will be the time of supply. Okay, next, Time of supply of services under forward charge. Under forward charge, when invoice is not issued within time. So invoice is issued within time means date of payment or date of issue of invoice, whichever is earlier. If it is not issued within time, that means section 31 is not followed. Okay, in such cases, date of provision of service or date of payment, whichever is earlier. Date of payment means date of recording of payment in books of accounts or date on which the payment is credited in the bank account. Why credited? Forward charge mechanism we are talking about. Okay, so these two are with respect to forward charge mechanism. Now this is the case of reverse charge mechanism. So in case of reverse charge mechanism, what is that? Date of payment or 61st day. Okay, so date of payment means date of recording of payment in the books of accounts of the recipient or date on which the payment is debited from the bank account of the recipient of service. Okay, date of debit or 61st day from the date of issue of the invoice, 61st day, whichever is earlier. If it is not ascertainable, date of entry of the service in the books of accounts of the recipient of supply. Next, time of supply of vouchers exchangeable for services, date of issue of vouchers if the supply is identifiable at that time, or date of redemption if the vouchers in other cases. Next, residual cases if the above does not work for any situation. In such cases, where periodical return is to be filed, due date of such return, or any other case, date on which the tax is paid. Next, addition in value by way of interest, late fees, penalty or delayed payment of consideration. Time of supply will be date on which the supplier receives such addition in value. Okay, so this is all about section 13. Section 13. So section 12 is over, 13 is over. So relevant part of section 31 is also over. Okay, you tell me the due dates as per section 31. For goods, due date as per section 31. For goods, what is the due date? Involves movement, involves no movement. If it is involves movement, on or before the date of removal. If it does not movement, does not requires movement, involves movement, on or before the date of delivery or on or before date of making available the goods thereof. Next, continuous supply of goods. Tell me, continuous supply of goods. When the successive payments, statement of accounts are involved on or before the date of such statement. Okay, when payments are involved, payments are received is on or before the date of payment. Okay, next. Sale or approval, sale on approval basis. At the time of sale or 6 months from the date of removal of goods, whichever is earlier. Correct? Next, services. Services. Before or after the supply of services, but within 30 days. In case of insurance banking company, 45 days. Next, continuous supply of services. When the due date is ascertainable, on or before such due date. And the due date is not ascertainable, on or before the date of payment. Okay, so if the payment is linked to completion of an event, on or before the completion of an event, what shall be done? What shall be done? Invoice shall be issued by that date. That will be the last date for issue of invoice. If that is issued within time, then date of invoice or date of payment. If that is not issued within time, date of provision of when that service is given, when that service is completed, or date of payment whichever is early. So what they are losing? Some time, some deferment of time for paying GST will be losing. Okay, right. So this is all about section 12 and 13. So we have some 1 or 2 illustrations here. We will solve. We will go one by one. Okay, come to illustration 1 here. Illustration 1 here. A machine has to be supplied at site. Machine has to be supplied at site. It is done by sourcing various components from vendors. It is done by sourcing various components from vendors and assembling the machine at site. The details of various events are: 17th September purchase order with advance of 50,000 is received for machine worth 12 lakhs. and entry duly made in the seller's books of accounts. Okay, next 20th October, machine is assembled, tested at site and accepted by the buyer. 23rd October, invoice raised. 4th November, balance payment 11,50,000 received. Determine the time of supply in the above scenario for the purpose of payment of tax. Okay, you just do. What is the time of supply? Which section will come? 12, time of supply of goods. Forward charge mechanism or reverse charge mechanism? Forward only, reverse. Forward. Forward means which subsection? Section 12, subsection 2. Okay, what is there in that? What is there in that? Generally, what is the general provision for that? Section 12, subsection 2, what is the general provision? Date of issue of invoice or last date of invoice or last date of invoice or due date of invoice, whichever is earlier. What is the date of invoice here? 23rd October. What is the due date of invoice? What is the due date of invoice? For determining due date of invoice, which section will be applicable? 31. In 31, what it is telling? With respect to goods. With respect to goods. When the invoice shall be issued? When the invoice shall be issued with respect to goods? If the goods involves movement on or before the date of removal of such goods. If the goods involves no movement on or before the date of delivery, on or before the date of making available. Okay, so if the goods, see here, what has to be done now? The machine is assembled, tested at site. Various component has to be, machine has to be supplied at site. It is done by sourcing various components from the vendors and assembling the machine at site. That means various parts has to be taken to the site. Goods involves movement on or before the date of removal of such goods. Okay, see, it has happened on 20th October. The machine is assembled, tested at site and accepted by the buyer. So by that date, invoice has to be issued. So that means last date of invoice is 20th October, but the invoice issued on 23rd October. So what will be the time of supply? Date of invoice or due date of invoice, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier. Okay, so date of invoice is 20th October. Sorry, 23rd October. Due date of invoice is 20th October, whichever is earlier. 20th October. Okay, so just check the answer. See, for the entire supply of 12 lakh rupees, the time of supply will be 20th October. He has received 50,000 on 17th September. 50,000 advance on 17th September out of 12 lakhs. So, but still advance with respect to supply of goods need not be considered. Now, you no need to make the payment of GST on advance for goods. Okay, next you see the goods, the machine is assembled, tested at site and accepted by the buyer means goods made available by 20th October. Hence invoice has to be issued by 20th October. Right, next, gas is supplied by a pipeline to the recipient. Gas is supplied by a pipeline to the recipient. So that means this is a continuous supply of service. Okay, So continuous supply of continuous supply of goods. Continuous supply of goods. Okay, right. The supply is to be made for a period of 1 year. Monthly payments are to be made by the recipient. That means due date is ascertained. Monthly payment has to be made. Due date for the payment is ascertained. So in such cases, invoice shall be issued on or before the due date of payment. Okay. So the details of the payments are made are 5th July, August 5th, so July 5th, August 5th, September 5th. Payment of 2 lakhs made in each month. Determine the time of supply for the purpose of payment of tax. Okay. So what is the provision? Which section will apply? Section? Which section will apply? 12 or 13? 12. Okay, in that forward charge or reverse charge? Forward charge or reverse charge? Forward charge only. Forward charge, reverse charge? Forward charge. So subsection 2. Subsection 2. Forward charge, reverse charge. Forward charge, subsection 2. Okay. So what is the provision? What is the provision? Date of invoice or due date of invoice, whichever is earlier. So what is the date of invoice and due date of invoice? You tell me. What is the date of invoice or due date of invoice? Due date of invoice on or before? July 5th, August 5th, September 5th. Correct? That will be the invoice dates. Okay. Date of, so let's say it is not given. Date of invoice is not given. Question is there still? Date of invoice is not given. Date of invoice is not given. It is assumed that on the due date only invoice has been issued. So the time of supply will be the same date. 5th July, 5th August, 5th September. So assuming that invoice is issued on July 5th, August 5th, September 5th. Time of supply for the purpose of the payment of the tax will be July 5th, August 5th, September 5th respectively. Okay. So sections applicable are section 12, subsection 2, clause A. And other invoice, section 31. 31 subsection 4. Continuous supply of goods. Where the successive statement of accounts or successive payments are involved, the invoice is issued before or at the time of each such a statement is issued, or as the case may be, each such payment is received. Okay, so the payment date is mentioned here. On or before the date of such payment, invoice has to be issued. Right, next illustration. See here we have an example here. Acme Sales Limited sells food coupons to a company. The company gives these coupons to its employees as a part of their agreed perquisite. The coupons can be redeemed for the purpose of purchase of any food item or provisions in the outlets that are part of the program. As the supply against which the coupon will be redeemed is not known on the date of sale of the coupon. As the supply against which the coupon will be redeemed is not known, because using that coupon they can use for anything, like they can redeem for purchase of any item of the food or provision of provisions in the outlet. So at the time of giving the coupons, it is not known what they are going to purchase. So that's why the time of supply of the coupons will be the date on which the employee redeems it against the food provision items of choice. Okay, so date of redemption. So next, with each purchase of large pizza during Christmas week, the from Perfect Pizza, one can buy a voucher of 20 rupees. So which will be redeemed till 5th Jan for small pizza. Okay, so as the supply against which the voucher will be redeemed is known on the date of issue of vouchers, because it is the pizza which they are going to deliver. Okay, which they are going to supply. So that's why it is identified at the time of issue of the vouchers. Okay, and hence it is the time of supply will be the date of issue of vouchers. Next, Next is you see here, Radha Traders sold goods to Shyam Sales on 6th June with a condition that interest at the rate of 2% month will be charged if Shyam fails to make the payment within 15 days of the delivery. Goods were delivered along with the invoice on 6th June. Okay, goods supplied on 6th June, invoice given on 6th June. Shyam Sales paid the consideration for the goods on 6th July. That means they have to make the payment on 15 days, payment in 15 days. If not made in 15 days, then interest will be applicable with applicable interest. So time of supply for the goods sold is the date of issue of invoice. Time of supply will be so for what for supply of goods, time of supply will be 6th June. Due date of invoice or date of invoice, whichever is earlier. So both are same here. So that's why time of supply is 6th June or 6th June, 6th June. Time of supply. With respect to the addition in the value, addition means interest. Okay, so they have not made the payment within 15 days. So that's why they will be charged with interest. In such cases, time of supply for addition in the value of the interest is the date when such addition in the value is received by Radha Traders. That is when they have received the payment of interest. So that is on 6th July. On 6th July. They paid the consideration for the goods on 6th July along with applicable interest. Okay, 6th July will be the time of supply for interest amount, not for the entire consideration. 6th June is the time of supply for original supply. With respect to addition in value, that is with respect to interest, what is the time of supply? 6th July will be the time of supply, date of payment. Okay, next we have other illustrations also. See here, determine the time of supply from the following particulars. 6th May, booking of convention hall. Sum agreed 15,000. Advance of 3,000 received. Okay, supply of service. Supply of service. Forward charge mechanism. Okay, section 13 will apply. Okay, advance received 3,000 rupees. Now function held in convention hall on 15th September. On 15th September. 27th October, tax invoice issued for 15,000 indicating balance of 12,000 payable. 3rd November, balance payment 12,000 received. So now you have to tell, so what is the time of supply? Time of supply. See here, whenever there is an advance part payment, you have to determine two different time of supplies. In services, whenever you have part payments, see here, advance is there, 3,000 rupees, 12,000 rupees, another payment is there. So for advance of rupees 3,000, there will be a separate time of supply. For remaining payment of 12,000, there will be a separate time of supply. Tell me, for 6th May, advance received. Advance received 6th May. Okay, so this will be time of supply for 3,000 rupees. For 3,000 rupees. Okay. Next, for remaining 12,000 rupees, when the supply made, provision of service. Provision of service 15th September. When the invoice issued 27th, when it shall be issued, due date of invoice, when it shall be issued, 15th September plus 30 days, 15th October. Okay, payment 3rd November, correct? Invoice issued on time. Invoice issued on time, not, because it shall be issued by 15th October, but issued on 27th October. Now what will be the provision? Date of provision of service or date of payment, whichever is earlier, will be the time of supply. What will be the time of supply? 15th September will be the time of supply. For how much? For 12,000 rupees. For 12,000 rupees. Because already 3000 rupees advance is there, no? On that advance, time of supply is already fixed, that is upon receipt of the advance. Okay, see here. So therefore the time of supply of service to the extent of 3000 rupees, to the extent of 3000 rupees is 6th May, as the date of payment of 3000 is earlier than the date of provision of service. Next, the time of supply of service to the extent of balance 12,000 is 15th September, which is the date of provision of service. Clear? Okay. Next, investigation shows that ABC and company carried out service of cleaning and repairs in the tanks in an apartment complex, for which the apartment owners association showed a payment in cash on 4th April to them against the work of this description. Okay, na? Apartment owners association showed a payment in cash on 4th April to them against the work of this description. Okay. Now the dates of the works are not clear from the records of the ABC and company. So whenever it is not clear, whenever you are unable to ascertain the time of supply, so then what shall be the date? Date of entry in the books of accounts, correct? Date of entry in the books of accounts. So on 4th April, the date on which the apartment owners association records the receipt of service in its books of accounts. Okay, so that's why time of supply will be 4th April. See here. So time of supply cannot be determined, as neither the invoice has been issued nor the date of provision of service is available, as also the date of the receipt of the payment in the books of the supplier is also not available. So therefore time of supply will be determined, okay, as per section 13(2) clause C, the date on which the recipient of the service shows the receipt of service in his books of accounts. Sorry. Okay, next illustration 7 here. Determine the time of supply from the given information. Assume that service being supplied is taxable under reverse charge. Okay, so reverse charge service, section 13, subsection service reverse charge, subsection 3. Okay, so what is the provision? Date of payment or date of 61st day from date of invoice. Okay, that means we shall be knowing date of invoice, right? Okay, on May 4th, the supplier of the service issues the invoice for services provided. There is a dispute about amount payable and the payment is delayed. Okay, next 21st August payment made to the supplier of service. Okay, on 21st August payment made. On May 4th invoice issued. Okay, now tell me what is the time of supply? Time of supply. What is the date of payment? Date of payment? August 21st. Okay, this will be one date. And what will be invoice date plus 60 days? May 4th plus 60 days. 4th July. 4th July. Whichever is earlier, 4th July will be time of supply. Okay. Next. See, 4th July is time of supply means when you have to pay GST? When you have to pay GST? 20th August. So this is falling under July month. Time of supply is falling under July month. So then by 20th August you have to make the payment of GST. Right? Determine the time of supply from the given information. A German company issues email informing Its associated enterprises, ABC Limited, of cost of technical services provided to it, which was recorded in ABC Limited books on 1st May. ABC Limited transfers the amount to the account of the German company on July 2nd. Okay. So, what will be the time of supply? With respect to importation of services and with respect to associated enterprises. Whenever it is recorded in the books of accounts. So when it is recorded in the books of accounts? May 1st. May 1st it is recorded in the books of accounts. Hence, the time of supply will be May 1st. See, earliest of the two stipulated dates, namely date of entry in the books of accounts of the recipient of supply or date of payment in the terms of second provision to 13th. Right. So now we will move on to the questions part now. How many questions are there? 15 questions are there. Okay. Significance of time of supply under GST. Why it is important? In order to determine the point of time in which tax liability arises. Okay. So GST is payable on advance received for supply of goods and services taxable under forward charge. Do you agree with the statement? No? Okay, why? Advance for the supply of services, correct? On advance for the supply of services, GST is payable. On advance for the supply of goods, GST is payable. No, GST is not payable. Only, but except specified actionable claims. Okay, right. Determine the time of supply in the following cases, assuming that GST is payable under reverse charge. Time of supply, assuming that GST is payable under reverse charge. Okay. So reverse charge mechanism of goods, time of supply of goods under reverse charge mechanism. Okay. So the rate of receipt of goods is 1st July. Date of receipt of goods is 1st July. So first of all, tell me, as per section, which section is applicable? 12. 12.3. 12.3 is applicable. Now tell me the provision. Reverse charge mechanism, goods, time of supply will be date of receipt of goods 1. Date of payment, date of payment means date of debit or date of entry in the books of accounts. Next, 31st day from date of invoice, not from the due date of invoice. Due date of invoice is irrelevant here. Date of invoice plus 30 days, that's all. Okay. Now tell me, receipt of goods 1st July. Date of payment 10th August. Okay. Date of issue of the invoice by the supplier June 29. So time of supply will be July 1 or August 10, June 29 plus 30, whichever is earlier. Obviously, July 1. Correct? No, see, 31st day from the date of issue of invoice, 31st day. So invoice date is June 29. Correct? Invoice date is June 29 plus 30 days. July? Whatever it may be, it will be ending of July only, no? So here we have July 1. There is no date earlier than July 1 here. Correct? So that's why July 1. Next, July 1 receipt of goods. Date of payment of the receipt June 25. Date of issue of the invoice by supplier of the goods June 29. Which is earlier? July 1, June 25, June 29 plus 30, yeah? Correct? Which is earlier? June 25, date of receipt of payment. Next, see here. Technically, what is happening here? June 25 is the time of supply. That means whenever you are receiving the payment, you have to make the payment of GST. That means liability of GST is arising. Correct? Date of payment of the receipt of the goods is 25. Whenever you are making the payment, the liability to pay GST is arising here. That means on advance it is coming a receipt of the goods is July 1. That means there is no supply made. You have not received the goods. That's why supply not made. But you have made the payment on June 25th. That means advance payment made. So advance with respect to goods has been paid. Now you are liable to pay GST. Yeah? Liable to pay GST? Yeah? No. This is the case of reverse charge. Now you tell me. You are liable? See, advance on the goods means you no need to pay GST on advance. But only in case of forward charge, this is an exception. Okay, so under reverse charge, whenever you are making the payment in advance also, that time also you may end up with paying GST. You may end up with paying GST because date of payment is one such parameter. Date of payment is one such parameter. Okay, na? Right. Next, date of receipt of the goods July 1. Part payment made on June 30. Balance amount paid on July 20. Date of issue of the invoice by supplier of the goods on June 29. Okay, two payments are there. Now, how many time of supplies will be there? Two will come. Whenever there is a part payment, installments of how many installments are there, those many time of supplies will come. Okay, with respect to what? Goods reverse charge mechanism. Services under forward charge, reverse charge. If it is a case of goods and forward charge mechanism, date of payment is irrelevant. Only one time of supply. If it is a case of goods and reverse charge mechanism, if part payment is coming means how many payments are there, those many time of supplies. With services, under forward charge, under reverse charge. In both the cases, how many payments are there? Those many time of supplies. But in case of forward charge, goods, so only one time of supply. There cannot be more than there cannot be more than one time of supply because payment, date of payment is irrelevant. Date of payment is irrelevant. What is the provision there? Date of invoice or due date of invoice, whichever is earlier. Date of payment is irrelevant there. Okay, so you just tell me. See, two set of dates will come now. What is that? July 1, part payment made on June 30. June 30, June 29 plus 30. 30 days. This is one set. Whichever is earlier? June 30. June 30 is earlier. Okay, next set. What is the next set? July 1, July 20, June 30, June 29 plus 30. What is earlier? July 1st will be the earlier date. Understanding? Next question. July 5th. Payment is entered in the books of accounts on June 28th and debited in the recipient's bank account on June 30. What is the date of payment? June 28, whichever is earlier, kada. Right, next. June 7th, June 7 only. June 7th is the date of issue of invoice by the supplier. June 1st, okay. June 1st. Okay. June 1st, sorry. June 1st. Plus 30 days. That means June 1st plus 30 days means July 1. July 1, June 28, July 5. Whichever is earlier. June 28. Time of supply. Next. July 1 payment is entered in the books on 30th June. Debited in the recipient's account on 26th June. Okay, whichever is earlier? June 26. So June 29 is the date of issue of invoice. So June 29 plus 30, July 1, June 26. Which is earlier? June 26. Okay. Next, August 1st is receipt. August 10th payment. June 29 plus 30 days. Tell me. July 29. Okay. Right, now you check the answer. July 1, June 25, June 30 for part payment made, and July 1 for balance. Okay, next June 28, payment entered. June 26, next July 30. July 30 or 31st day. We got this 29, July 30. 29. 31st day, correct. 30 days plus 1. Okay. So next question you see. Determine the time of supply in the following cases, assuming that GST is payable under reverse charge. See here they are asking about services. Which section? 13(3). What is the provision? What is the provision? Date of payment or date of 61st day. Whichever is earlier. Okay. Date of payment by the recipient of services is August 10. Date of payment. Date of issue of invoice 29 plus 60. Now, August 10th. Next, August 10, June 1. August 10, June 1. August 10 plus June 1 plus 60. June 1 plus 60. June 1 plus 60 means how much? August 1st it will be, I think. August 1st will be the 61st day. Right. August 1st and August 10th. August 1st. Part payment made on June 30. Balance on September 1st. 2 dates will come. June 30, June 29 plus 60. Which is earlier? June 30. Okay. September 1st, June 29 plus 60. Which is earlier? June 29. August 29 it will come. 61st day. June 29 to July 20. June 29 plus 30. July 29. August 29 it is coming 61st day. Okay. So August 29. So August 29 will be the September 1st to August 29, which is earlier. August 29. Next, payment entered in the books of accounts on June 28. Debited on June 30. So which is earlier? June 28. June 28 and June 1 plus 60. Which is earlier? June 28. So it is going into month of August, no. But earlier date is there, June 28. Next, payment entered in the books on 30th June. Debited in the recipient bank account on June 26. Which is earlier? June 26, June 26, June 29 plus 60, June 26. Okay, first case August 10, second case 1st August, third case June 30 and August 29. Okay, fourth case June 28, fifth case June 26. Right? Next, fifth question. Kabira Industries Limited engaged in the services of transporter for road transport of a consignment on 17th June and made advance payment for the transportation on the same date, that is 17th June. However, the consignment could not send immediately on account of strike in the factory. Okay, and instead was sent on 20th July. Invoice was received from the transporter on 22nd July. Okay, so what to tell here? Time of supply only. What is the time of supply? The transporter service. Kabira Industries Limited engaged the services of a transporter for road transport of a consignment on 17th June and made advance payment for transportation on the same day, that is 17th June. However, consignment could not be sent immediately on account of strike in the factory and instead was sent on 20th July. Invoice was received from the transporter on 20th July, 22nd July, time of supply. Forward charger, reverse charger. Services means section 13 will come. 13.2 will come, 13.3 will come. Three will come, reverse charger. Okay, reverse charge. What is the provision there? If it is reverse charge, date of, what is the provision? Date of payment or 61st day. What is the invoice date here? 22nd July plus 61st. What is the date of payment? Two dates will come. Advance one. Advance is there. Advance received on 17th June. For part payment of advance, 17th June will be time of supply. For remaining payment, date of payment or 22nd plus 61 days. Okay. Actually, they have not given this date of payment, remaining payment date, no. So that's why we can write the provision itself. Okay. So it is not. So time of supply of service taxable under reverse charge. Why it is reverse charge? Why it is reverse charge? How we determined that? So this is a service by GTA. GTA service, no. That's why reverse charge. Is the earlier of the following dates. Okay, date of payment or 61st day. In case the date of payment precedes 61st day from the date of issue of invoice by supplier of service, hence the date of payment, that is 17th June, will be treated as the time of supply of service. Okay, so maybe this advance is the full payment, I think. Made the advance payment for the transportation on the same day. Advance payment means they have made the payment in early, and that to full consideration they have paid. So that's why this 17th June will come. Next, Raju Private Limited receives the order and advance payment on 5th January for carrying out an architectural design job. It delivers the designs on 23rd April. By oversight, no invoice is issued at that time and is issued much later after the expiry of prescribed period for issue of invoice. When is the time of supply of service? Forward charge, reverse charge. Time of supply of service first of all. Section? Service, no. Section 13. Forward charge, reverse charge. Forward charge, reverse charge. Architect service only, no? In reverse charge list we have seen, we have not seen architect service, right? Architect service we have seen, in notified services list. No. Huh? We have not seen that. Even construction service also we have not seen. Renting of immovable property we have seen. Construction services where we have seen? Construction service where we have seen? Works contract there. See, so this is forward charge only. Forward charge. Then 13(2). What is the provision? Invoice issued within the time. Invoice issued within the time. Invoice not issued within the time. They are only telling that. Then date of provision of service or date of payment, whichever is earlier. So date of provision of services delivers the design on 23rd April. Okay. Advance payment 5th Jan, whichever is earlier, 5th Jan. Next, investigation shows that 150 cartons of ceramic capacitors were dispatched on 2nd August, but no invoice was raised. Transaction dispatch of the cartons were not entered in the accounts. There was no evidence of receipt of payment. Okay, what is the time of supply? For the purpose of payment of tax. So whenever it is unable to determine as per the above parameters, then date of entry in the books of accounts. Correct? See, the capacitors were dispatched on 2nd August. So that way then 2nd August will be the time of supply, date of entry. Next, an order is placed on Ram & Co. on 18th August for supply of a consignment. Okay, of a customized shoes. Ram & Co. gets the consignment ready and informs the customer and issues the invoice on 2nd December. Customer collects the consignment from the premises of Ram & Co. on 7th December and electronically transfers the payment on the same date, which is entered in the accounts on the next day, 8th December. What is the time of supply of the shoes for the purpose of payment of tax? Tell me. See, first of all, 18th August is the relevant date or irrelevant? Irrelevant, placing of order. Date of placing of order is irrelevant. Nowhere it is there. Okay. Now, date of invoice is there. What is that? 2nd December. Next, date of payment is there. Date of payment is there. The customer customer collects the consignment on 7th delivery on 7th December. Payment on 8th December. No, the customer collects the consignment from the premises of Ram and Co. on 7th December. అర్థం కాల వాట్ ఏంటమ్మా పేమెంట్ డేట్ ఈజ్ 7th వై okay. The customer collects the consignment from the premises of Ram and Co. Okay, full stop. On 7th December. Okay. On 7th December and electronically transfers the payment on the same day, correct. Which is entered in the accounts on the next day on 8th December. Okay. So payment date is 7th December, but actually the payment is recorded in the accounts on 8th December. So whichever is earlier will be the date of payment, which is 7th. So date of delivery is 7th December. Invoice shall be issued by 7th December, but issued on 2nd December. So invoice timely issued. So now tell me what is the provision? Which section will apply? Goods are 12. Forward or reverse charge? Forward charge. Forward charge 12 to. What is the provision? Date of invoice or due date of invoice? 2nd or 7th, whichever is earlier. Okay, meal coupons are sold to a company on 9th August for being distributed to the employees of the said company. Coupons are valid for 6 months, can be used against purchase of food items. Employees use them in various stores for purchase of various edible items on different dates throughout the 6 months. What is the supply of the coupons? What is the time of supply of coupons? Date of 9th August, how? Identifiable? See, various edible items on different dates. Various stores for purchase of various edible items on different dates throughout the 6 months. Date of redemption. Next, a firm of advocates. See, we will finish off these questions and go for break, or else we will break now. Yeah, fine. A firm of advocates issues invoice for services to ABC Limited on 17th February. The payment is contested by ABC Company Limited on the ground that on account of negligency of the firm, the company's case was dismissed by the court for non-appearance, which necessitated further appearance for which the firm is billing the company. The dispute drags on. Finally, payment is made on 3rd November. Identify the time of supply. Okay. So invoice on 17th February. Okay. Payment on 3rd November. Okay. Services forward charge, reverse charge. Forward or reverse? Reverse charge? How? How it is reverse charge? Legal services of an advocate is there in the list of notified services, and hence it is a reverse charge. That's why 13.3 will apply. 13.3, what is the provision? Fourth point. Fourth point. Second point only. 13.3, what is the provision? Date of payment or 61st day from the date of invoice. 17th February plus 61st day. 17th February plus 61st day. In February, 9 days. So 17th Feb plus 60 days, 61st day, or 3rd November. February plus 60. April 20 it is coming 61st day. April 20 is coming okay, maybe. You just check whether it is correct or not. 17th February means 11 days 28 days means 11 days. Okay. 11 plus Another 50 days. Another 50 days you have to take. So March 31 days. Correct? March 31 days. April 19 days. 61st days, no. 61st day, 19. Correct? 19th April it might be. Next, Modern Security Company provides services of testing of electronic devices. See, whenever the month is getting changed now, we have to worry, because due date of GST will be changed. Okay. Next, Modern Secure practically, but from the examination point of view, we should be knowing the exact date of time of supply. Right. Modern Security Company provides service of testing of electronic devices. In one case, it tested a batch of devices on 4th and 5th September, but could not raise invoice till 19th November because of some dispute about the condition of the device on return. The payment was made in December. What is the method to fix the time of supply of service? Service of which section? 13. Reverse charge, forward charge. 12 2 will come. Okay. What is the invoice issued within time? Not issued within time. That's why clause A, clause B. Clause B will come. 13 to clause B. Right. Next. 13 to clause B. What is the provision? Provision of service or receipt of payment. Provision of service on 4th and 5th. Right. Next, XYZ and Company, a firm of chartered accountants, issued invoice for services rendered to Mr. A on 7th September. Determine the time of supply in independent cases. Provision of services completed on 1st August. Payment received on 28th September. See which section will come here? 13. Service means 13. Forward charge, reverse charge. CA service. Forward charge only. In reverse charge we have not seen. Forward charge 13 to. So provision of service completed on invoice for the service rendered to Mr. A on 7th September, invoice date, that is fixed. Okay, invoice 7th. Okay. Provision of service was completed on 1st August. Payment was received on 28th September. Okay. In such case, invoice is issued within time. Invoice issued within time. Within 30 days invoice has to be issued. That means service completed on 1st August. Provision of service was completed on 1st August. Provision of service completed on 1st August. Invoice shall be issued by 1st August plus 30 days. Okay. By 31st August invoice shall be issued. Okay. But invoice issued on 7th September. So it is not issued within time. So that's why provision will be date of service or date of payment whichever is earlier. So 1st August or 20th September which is earlier. So which is 1st August. Next, provision of service completed on 14th August. Payment received on 28th September. Invoice issued within time. Yes. So date of invoice or date of payment which is earlier. 7th September. Okay. So 1st August, 7th September. Next, Mr. A made the payment on 3rd August. However, provision of service was remaining to be completed at that time. Okay, 3rd August they have made the payment. Provision of service was remaining to be completed at that time. So whatever it may be, whether invoice issued within time or not, So if the payment is made earlier, date of payment will come. In both the cases, date of payment is there, whichever is earlier is there. So that's why date of payment is the earliest date. So that's why 3rd August. Mr. A made the payment on 15th September. Mr. A made the payment on 15th September. However, provision of service remaining to be completed at that time. Invoice issued on? Okay. Invoice issued within time? Invoice issued within time? Before the completion of service, invoice issued. Correct? It can be issued, right? It can be issued. It can be issued at any time, but not later than 30 days from the date of provision of service. So invoice issued within time. So invoice date or payment date, whichever is earlier. So 7th September. Next, Pranav Associates, a firm providing recovery agency services to Neutron Credits Limited, a non-banking financial company. Reverse charge, and a registered supplier on 15th January. Okay, invoice for the same was issued on 7th February and the payment was made on 18th April by Newton Credits Limited. Okay, the bank account of the company was debited on 20th April. Determine the person liable to pay GST, time of supply of service. Who is the person liable to pay GST? Who has to pay GST? Neutron Credits Limited, NBFC has to pay GST. Correct? Reverse charge mechanism will come. We'll see. Next, registered supplier on 15th January. Okay, the provision of services 15th Jan. Invoice raised on 7th February. Within time? Within time. Who has raised the invoice? Who raised the invoice? Who raised invoice? Pranav is the supplier. Okay. Next, payment made on 18th April. So what is and that too 20th debited. Okay. So date of payment will be 18th April. So invoice issued within time. Reverse charge mechanism or forward charge? Reverse charge. So reverse charge 13.3 will come. What is the provision? Date of payment April 18th or 61st day from date of so 7th February plus 61st day. Okay. So what is the date? It will land in the month of April. That too before the date of payment. April 8th, 9th. Okay. April 9th. That is which is before the date of payment. So 18th April or 9th April, whichever is earlier. Next, X supplied goods for 50,000 to its customer, Miss Diana, on 1st January on the condition that payment for the same will be made within a week. Okay, supplied 50,000 goods to its customer, Diana, on 1st Jan on the condition that payment for the same will be made within a week. Miss Diana made the payment for the said goods on 2nd February and thus the paid interest of rupees 2,000. Okay, so what is the time of supply with regard to the addition in the value by way of interest in lieu of the delayed payment of consideration? Okay, what is the time of supply? Time of supply with regard to in respect of addition in the value, what is that? 2nd February. Yeah? So whenever you are receiving the interest, that will be time of supply. Next, Munch and Wunsch trading company. A registered supplier is liable to pay GST under forward charge. It has furnished the following information. Goods supplied on 3rd October. Invoice issued on 5th October. Payment received on 9th October. Okay, goods supplied on 3rd. Invoice issued on 5th. Payment received on 9th. Invoice issued within time. See, these are goods, correct? When the invoice has to be issued? See, this is service goods goods kada. These are goods. Invoice shall be issued on or before the date of removal or on or before the date of delivery. When the goods has been given 3rd October, invoice shall be by 3rd October, but invoice issued on 5th October. Okay, so due date of invoice is 3rd, date of invoice is 5th, payment date is relevant, not relevant, whichever is earlier. Okay, right, just check the answers.